Viktor Frankl was not a Stoic. He rarely cited Marcus Aurelius or Epictetus by name. His intellectual lineage ran through phenomenology, through Husserl and Heidegger and Schiller, through the Viennese psychiatric tradition he had inherited and then radically revised. And yet, when you read the Meditations alongside man's search for meaning, something remarkable happens. You begin to hear the same mountain from two different sides. The Stoics made a distinction that became the cornerstone of their entire practical philosophy, between what is up to us and what is not. In Greek, the hephaemon. What is up to us? Our judgments, our impulses, our desires, our aversions. What is not up to us? The body, reputation, property, the actions of others, the course of events. Marcus Aurelius returned to this distinction again and again across decades of private journaling, as if the reminder was something he needed daily, not because he was weak, but because the temptation to confuse the two categories is, apparently, permanent and human. Frankl arrived at almost the same place through a different path, and through an experience the Stoics never had to endure. In Auschwitz, stripped of every material possession, of his manuscript, of his wife, of any certainty about tomorrow, he discovered something that no guard could confiscate. The last of the human freedoms, as he called it, the freedom to choose one's attitude toward a given set of circumstances. The gap between stimulus and response. That thin, almost invisible space where the human being still gets to decide who they are. The convergence is striking. Both traditions hold that external events are not, in themselves, the source of suffering. What causes suffering is the relationship we have with those events, the interpretation, the clinging, the demand that reality be other than it is. Both traditions counsel a rigorous turning inward, not as escapism, but as the only reliable foundation for a life that is not permanently at the mercy of fortune. But here the paths begin to diverge, and the divergence matters. The Stoics pursued equanimity. The ideal Stoic sage is not indifferent to the world, that is a caricature, but is unmoved by it in a specific sense. The goal is tranquility, a state in which the inner life is ordered, stable, undisturbed by the irrational passions that arise from misidentifying what matters. Ataraxia. Peace of mind. Frankl did not pursue peace of mind. He actively argued against it as a primary goal, which we will explore in a later video. What he pursued, and prescribed, was meaning. And meaning, unlike equanimity, requires tension. It requires what he called the new dynamic, the healthy gap between who you are and what you have not yet achieved, between the present reality and the call that has not yet been answered. For the Stoics, the ideal is a kind of completion. For Frankl, the ideal is a kind of striving, directed, purposeful striving towards something that genuinely matters. The Stoic sage has achieved inner order. Frankl's ideal person is still reaching towards something outside themselves. The vector is different. The Stoic points inward to find peace. Frankl points outward to find meaning. There is also a difference in what each tradition does with love. The Stoics were somewhat uneasy about strong attachment, the love of particular people, the grief of particular losses. They recognized these as sources of potential disturbance. Frankl placed love at the center of his anthropology. He believed that the deepest form of meaning comes from seeing another person fully, from loving not what they are but what they can become. This is not equanimity. It is its opposite, a deliberate vulnerability, a chosen exposure to the risk of loss. What both traditions share, ultimately, is a refusal to be merely a product of circumstances. The Stoic refuses by cultivating indifference to what cannot be controlled. Frankl's person refuses by finding, in whatever cannot be controlled, an occasion for meaning. One seeks freedom from the world's turbulence. The other seeks freedom within it. The mountain is the same. The paths are different. And perhaps you need both. Subscribe to the Psychology of Viktor Frankl to explore more of his timeless ideas.